Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. Today it's a funny one because honestly it is grim in a way where I didn't expect, because I kind of would have assumed that this would be a, criminal thing, not a civil thing, but apparently, well, here we go. So, California expands lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. So the lawsuit has expanded, and man, in a meaningful way, because it seems they're destroying evidence. Which, there is a reason. It does make sense. I think it basically is just the legal system being set up in a way where a company can do something like this, and in a very sort of with the blinkers on way, you can see how it makes sense for Activision Blizzard to do this, but I think morally we could all agree that it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. So, California has expanded its lawsuit against Activision Blizzard, adding temporary workers to the female full-time employees of whom it was suing on behalf. And yeah, State Department is now also alleging that the game maker has interfered with its investigation. So, thing one. Turns out this is actually worse than the department initially thought. The amended complaint was filed on Monday, and it redefines the group that was wronged by the company. And it redefines it from employees to workers. And, certainly there's, I think employee and worker have got like a different, they are a different thing with worker being a more broad term, like even in the UK. I assume it's the same in the US. And that basically just means that it's going to impact a lot more than just employees, right? Temp, contract workers, stuff like that. They're going to be included as well. So this massively increases the scope of this. I mean, some of the particular things that we heard, examples, okay, one of them was in the Austin office, but it was the temp and the contract workers being treated the worst. So, it's probably going to get worse if the people who are seen as being the most disposable and the least valuable are now included in this lawsuit. So, that's pretty big. I think the more eye-grabbing thing is this, though. This kind of blew my mind. Okay, so Activision Blizzard impeding the investigation, destroying evidence. The department says that Activision Blizzard has stymied its efforts through NDAs, requiring employees to speak with the company ahead of contacting the State Department. I guess so that HR can, plan a good response with the employees to get the department off their back. And then, of course, the company's involvement with WilmerHale, which is the law firm that they've got in to investigate those misconduct issues, which, of course, a lot of the employees are not particularly thrilled about, given what WilmerHale who they usually work for, which is kind of defending the big corps and stuff like that, as well as a little bit of a track record of union busting. So, not super popular. But the more surprising thing is this. It alleges in part that documents related to investigations and complaints were shredded by human resource personnel in violation of what it asserts is the company's legal obligation to retain them pending the investigation. Oh no! There's bad-looking evidence. We'll put it in the shredder. Wild. I think this is one of the things. Axios, I think, hit the reporting first. Of course, that's Stephen and Megan on that. Jessica Gonzalez, I think, was popularized or helped spread it on Twitter. And as she says here, HR destroyed the documents related to the lawsuit, which means the fine for doing so was less than the penalty for what it was. Shame in HR, time to unionize. Yeah, so basically, the current setup is that the fine for destroying evidence in this case is less than what Activision Blizzard reckons, we can assume, would happen to them should that evidence fall into the hands of the government. That's quite something. Now, for another example of that, the same department, of course, is looking to Riot Games. And there was that thing, remember, when I think there was around 1,000 women who were the plaintiffs, and it was going to come out to an average of 10 grand each, the settlement. It was like 10 million or something. I forget exactly. But then the department came in and said, actually, more like 400 million in back pay. So I'm wondering if Blizzard or Activision Blizzard, of course, are terrified that something very big like that will happen. And that's why they're destroying this evidence, because the fine for doing so is less than how bad it could be if, basically, if the state takes the opinion that the issues in discrimination was so systemic that it basically does cover basically a proportion of the company, which would be very brutal for Blizzard if it did, and that's why they've destroyed the evidence. Yes, this is where the legal system starts to fall apart, when it's easier to tank penalties for destroying evidence than to actually let the truth be discovered. Employees involved will take the fall for the company. I mean, yeah, Activision Blizzard is allegedly destroying evidence in a legal investigation. That is absolutely insane stuff to be going on, in my reckoning. And I guess that means that this is a civil matter, not a criminal matter. But I don't know. Destroying evidence, in my head, that feels like it's obstruction of justice and should be a criminal matter, to be honest with you. Not a law person, but that's just how it feels as a layman. For some of the specifics, during the department's investigation, they requested documents and communications. The defendants refused to produce documents regarding complaints and investigations by asserting they did not exist or they were privileged and confidential because attorneys were involved. Withheld as privileged and confidential the documents and correspondence on compensation and pay equity because the analysis involved attorneys. Therefore not maintained, preserved, and or made records available as required under relevant authorities. Department is also informed and aware the documents and records have not been maintained, were shredded by human resource personnel, and emails are deleted 30 days after an employee's separation. But it's legally a requirement to maintain all records and files for a minimum period of 2 years. So we know the word allegedly has got to crop up here, but we kind of know what seems to be going on, right? Now, also, it's not going. I think it's going just fine for Jessica. But step 3: sending whistleblowers to the anti-whistleblower. It's almost funny. Employees are told to use the Way to Play hotline to report. All of those complaints go to the Chief Compliant Officer, Francis Townsend, who is, of course, the CCO, that tweeted about how whistleblowing is a moral failure and has personal close relations with WilmerHale, the company that Activision Blizzard has got in to help investigate the internal problems. You can see how these things may not all be perfect for the workers at the company. Now, this is where we wanted to do a little bit extra. So a lot of what we were covering there, of course, is Jessica's tweets and the reporting by Megan and Stephen from Axios. The other thing we really wanted to bring up, though, is a little bit of history. So, you know what? A lot of this was your thing, Matt, so hit me.
Yeah, so when I was going through this, I was like, okay, well, they're destroying evidence. They're doing illegal shit, allegedly getting rid of evidence, impeding investigations. And I was just kind of thinking, well, this sounds a little bit familiar. Because I remember them, when was the last time they were embroiled in legal drama? And what did they do back then? And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. They actually asked an employee back in, actually can't remember the time frame, but it was around Modern Warfare 2. And this is the big Jason West, Vince Zampella case that, maybe it's a product of my age, but it was the first big legal case in games that people were really tuned into. That was really culturally relevant for gamers. And it was, Jason West, Vince Zampella were booted out of Activision after Modern Warfare 2, and everyone went, no, you've not got a good reason to get rid of this. You just want the money. You just don't want to pay us the money that we're owed for making this billion-dollar franchise, Call of Duty, what it is today. And I believe a lot of this stuff didn't come out till much later.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that as Giant Bomb and the LA Times were saying, there was a testimony from the former senior director of IT at Activision. I think it was George Fenedy. No, it wasn't George Fenedy. It was Thomas Fenedy. Sorry. Thomas Fenedy alleged that Activision's lawyer, George Rose, asked him to spy on West and Zampella long before Modern Warfare 2 actually launched, because they saw the general trajectory of Call of Duty, and they were go see if we can dig up dirt. I think the quote used in one of the lawsuits was dig dirt up on them, and it was by accessing their work emails, voicemails, computer stuff from work. And I believe a lot of the reports say hacking, some of them say accessing, So, if some of them are, say, hacking, then that implies it's a breach of privacy.
Yeah, well, he testified that he was told not to get caught doing it.
Yeah.
But that Bobby will take care of you. Don't worry about the repercussions.
Yep. That's why this struck me so hard, because I was like, oh yeah, back in the day, they tried to do illegal things to get rid of their employees, completely under the darkness of secrecy, but it was from the top.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't employees acting up, and that was what struck me when I was thinking about, it's the human resource personnel getting rid of this stuff. I'm like, well, what's the incentive there? They could be covering their own ass, or it could be directives from the top, and it's we can't be sure who's at fault here, but it is worth thinking that back in the day, the lawyers had express instructions from Bobby Kotick to investigate West and Zampella, and not to worry about getting caught, or try not to get caught, but don't worry about breaking the law to do so.
Yeah, and there's even a code name for this, Project Icebreaker. It's called, this whole thing was called Project Icebreaker, and your man, Fenity, he approached third parties to try and accomplish what he was told to do by his bosses. However, both Microsoft and security specialists in Guardians refused to assist with the cracking of passwords without a proper court order. The possibility of faking a fire alarm or fumigation of the building in order to keep them away from their computers for long enough for those computers to be accessed or imaged was discussed. So, this is some, I don't know, man, some Mr. Robot shit that they were trying to do. Wild. The testimony also alleges the objective, known as Project Icebreaker, was begun with the aim of building evidence against West and Zampella.
It's just the idea that they did that in the past. So you look at you use that as a lens to think of what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of think, because basically you could hand wave it away by going, oh, human resources are, covering their own ass or whatever else is going on. Or it's bad processes. But then you look and you go, well, no, these people are really smart. They know what they're doing legally. So many of their executives have roots in the CIA or ties to WilmerHale, ties to law firms. They're all really clued in that way. And that's how they can get away with what, not literal murder, but the idea of doing their employees so dirty, but getting away with it. It's oh yeah, we're paying you significantly below what we should be paying you. We're treating you like dirt. We're having you easily replaceable, but they can get away with it because they know what they're doing, and they can cover it up. They can direct their employees to WilmerHale instead of straight to the department.
Yeah.
Get lawyers to catch all of the stuff on the way out. Even the idea that they're blocking all of the documents based on the fact that they're being analyzed by attorneys. Well, that's WilmerHale, who are, technically, figuratively speaking, in bed with the executives of Activision Blizzard. So it's not, it's a case of, oh yeah, attorneys look at these. Yeah, but you asked the attorneys to look at them. So, that's not really, that's not a valid defense. That's basically saying, oh, mates, could you just come in and guard all this stuff while we, give us a legal reason to not hand these over? Why is there something bad in them? Yes, but I didn't say that.
Yeah, from the people who brought you Project Icebreaker.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the internal name for that is.
Yeah.
For this is, rather.
So Activision's response then to the recent stuff that they sent over to IGN. Throughout our engagement with the department, we have complied with every proper request. Just, not the improper requests, I guess, is that our read of that, in support of its review. Even as, they've been working so hard. We had been implementing reforms to ensure our workplaces are safe and welcoming for every employee. These changes continue today and include several high-level personnel changes. That is absolutely true. Revamped hiring and recruiting practices requiring diverse interview panels, greater transparency and pay equity, expanded and improved training and investigate capabilities for human resource and compliance staff, creating investigation teams outside of business units to support greater independence, restructured divisions to support greater accountability, enhanced review processes to include evaluation of managers by employees. I think that's pretty good. Clear boundaries in workplace behavior, the zero-tolerance approach to harassment and other actions that diminish and marginalize. And look, those are all good things. And I don't really have much doubt that they're actually doing that stuff. it's the sort of thing, right, where I think they will want to do not all of, but because all of the right things maybe will include the forced arbitration. But they will want to do many of the right things that don't cause potential legal issues for them, like, the reason why they have the forced arbitration stuff. Yeah. They're probably going to want to do that because they know that they need to clean up shop. But what you're going to see the legal side of them do is, of course, what's the goal of that side of the company? It's to protect the company. It's to ensure that they have to pay the least amount of money in fines and, payouts and stuff as is possible. So even if the left hand of the company is doing everything right, the right hand of the company is still going to be doing all of this scummy shit because that's literally what they're paid to do. To help the company out in situations like this, and help the company out, of course, means ensure that they are fined as little as is possible. So then continuing, they strive to be a company that recognizes and celebrates the diverse talents and perspectives that led the usual sort of statement, to be completely honest, saying they share the goal with the State Department. There's an update. An Activision Blizzard spokesperson later amended the statement to explicitly deny the accusations of document shredding by the California Department of Fair
Employment and Housing.
Yes, Employment and Housing. With regards to claims we have destroyed information by shredding documents, those claims are not true. We took appropriate steps to preserve information relevant to the investigation. Now, obviously, they're going to deny that. The department, of course, is claiming that no, these things are being shredded. That's basically what's up. Certainly, the incentive to shred the document is there for Activision Blizzard. You could very much argue. That's the story, essentially. I think, that response that they gave to IGN, it's like the things I've highlighted there, that's probably, good stuff that the employees want, but they probably want a bit more. And, in regards to the bit more, I think that just involves things where the company's just not willing to budge. Yeah. But, I think a lot of the questions are, will they start, say, treating QA and CS staff well? Because certainly that's the right thing to do. And also, as people who play or have played, Blizzard products, like World of Warcraft, they could certainly do with more quality assurance and customer service.
Definitely.
That's where we're left right now. Of course, this is all ongoing legal proceedings, so I suppose expect updates as time goes on. I'm not sure. Do you have any additional stuff?
Not much else to say outside of this is really grim, and it's just a shame that I think any updates will be slow and slower and slower as time goes on. But it's like you were saying about the QA and CS, will they be treated correctly? This is where I think the legal system kind of falls a little bit short in how it kind of goes, because that is such a massive problem. And if it's I imagine that's actually why they're destroying evidence more than anything else, because the fact that this is now expanded to include the temp workers and contract workers, if the department investigates and finds that, like you're saying about the back pay, imagine how much back pay you'd have to deal with if it turns out for the past, for all of the history that you have records for, you've been underpaying people. You've been not paying them overtime. You've been overworking them. The amount of damages you'll have to pay for hundreds or thousands of employees will be in the hundreds of millions.
They actually have had to do that for some staff already. I think that's just private stuff, though. Yeah. But I've heard a few rumblings of people who so. Not good. Not good. And certainly, we're seeing this happen here in the USA. If this is the sort of risk they're opened up to, hell, no wonder they don't want to be in France.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
If you're not aware, France, for good and ill, the good side is they have loads of worker protections and stuff like that, very robust labor code. The ill of that is that operating in France can be a humongous quagmire with loads of documents and all of that stuff that actually sometimes can be a real pain in the ass for employees as well. But you can certainly see why with all this, you can see why the outsourcing of QA or something is not something they just want to go do in France. Yeah. Of course, that office Blizzard is gone now.
Yep.
But yes, right. There you go. That's the story. more things will happen. I wonder, is this a sort of case where there'll be a discovery phase, stuff will be made public, and we'll learn a little bit more? Who knows? We'll just have to stay tuned. This is a twisty, turny story where, really, almost every twist and turn we get is sort of sauntering vaguely downwards. Yeah, rough. Well, that's it for us. If you're a legal person, let us know what to think about this, because this is not particularly our wheelhouse. Both that said, thanks for listening. See you next time.